Why is it every time you're getting ready to go on vacation, your animals always know? When one woman's dog started acting uncharacteristically clingy before her trip, she reached out to a pet psychic to find out why. And you'll never guess the reason. I'm Nancy Aziz. Welcome to Rover Says, the podcast where we share stories about the weird and wonderful things animals say when they talk to pet psychics.
Well, let's see. How do I start? Firstly, I didn't grow up with animals. My mother did not like animals. And so there were never any in the house that couldn't be either caged or in a tank.
That's Claudia Queen, who didn't have the privilege of animals in her life as a child, but as an adult, she made up for lost time. One of her big loves was a dog named Darla. Here's how Darla came into her life.
I guess my stepdaughter acquired a dog and then it kind of motivated me to get one. And I committed the cardinal sin of getting one from a pet store, which unfortunately died a week later from parvo. And then, of course, being the prudent uh, shopper that I am, I did use American Express, so I got my money back on that dog. But following that, second cardinal sin: don't get another dog for another 6 months if one had parvo. But I did anyway, and so I acquired Darla from a breeder, reputable breeder, and so pure Havanese, and she also did get parvo, but was I recognized the symptoms, and she was cured and lived a long life. And she was just a very, very sweet, intuitive animal. Um, just a very loving, uh, carefree kind of a dog.
Darla also liked being the center of attention.
At the time, I was living in a gated community, and I was at the end of a cul-de-sac. And Darla, no matter how hot it would be, would sit in the middle of the street, the black asphalt, to sun herself. You know, I mean, it just made no sense. It could be 100 degrees out. Here it is a dog, she's have a fur coat on, and I couldn't get it.
Claudia went to an animal communicator she'd worked with before for answers. Her name is Ellen Lance. Claudia says Lance had surprised her before with this spot-on insight, which she gave in a session that was over the phone.
You have to have a certain belief that people do have a third sense and ability to communicate outside of our world, because I wasn't suspending any disbelief. I just believe that people do have that power. So a couple of things affirm that in her telepathy with Darla. Ellen says to me, I'm seeing a picture of a carriage. And she'd have no idea that I had a baby carriage or stroller in my garage. I said, yeah. She said, well, actually, Darla is getting older, and she would actually like to be ridden in that or driven in it, which I thought was pretty amazing. I mean, you can't make things up like that. You just can't.
So she had never been to your garage.
No,
You hadn't talked
no,
about that blue stroller.
no.
So Claudia was pretty sure Ellen Lance would be able to help her figure out why Darla insisted on sitting in the middle of the street.
So Ellen, why don't you inquire why she does that? Why doesn't she sit on the grass in the backyard? Her answer was precious. She said, well, if I was in the backyard, no one would see me. Is that adorable?
Does that mean she kind of likes to be the center of attention?
Obviously, obviously.
I love it.
And by the way, there wasn't a lot of traffic there. It was just,
Yeah.
she just wanted to be the center of attention, and she wanted to see what was going on.
But one day, this seemingly confident, well-adjusted dog started acting strangely when Claudia was preparing to leave town.
Darla was being very clingy, you know, um, typically independent, but this clingy wouldn't let me go one foot in a direction without being on my heels, more or less, or another. And there was something going on.
Here's animal communicator Ellen Lance.
So Claudia had called me, and I should actually say, for the benefit of your listeners, that my sessions are basically via phone. I use a picture of the animal with their eyes facing the camera to access their consciousness. And that way nobody has to travel far distances, and the owner, animal doesn't have to get used to me being around, because we go straight into whatever we need to deal with. So Claudia contacted me about Darla, and she mentioned, Darla's being really clingy and I don't understand it. And, and it's probably because I'm going away in a couple of days. And I said, well, and intellectually, honestly, I thought, yeah, probably, and she knows, she must see me packing, etc. And then so I asked Darla, okay, well, Darla, this is what Claudia is saying, and, what's going on? And Darla says, I'm afraid she's going to break her hip. I was dumbfounded. I thought, really? So what I always do is I just repeat to, the pet owner, okay, this is what your animal is saying, and let them decide, if this makes sense or not.
What didn't make any sense to Lance made a lot of sense to Claudia. Her partner had gone on vacation 6 months prior and broken her hip on the trip.
It was pretty dramatic because my girlfriend fell while we were in Turkey, and so needed an operation there, and it was obviously there's physical therapy on the way back, but clearly there's recovery, so she saw that and sensed that, okay, if person A goes, well, that could happen to person B also.
So how did Ellen work that out with her?
I think she reassured her that, I'm a big girl and I'll take care of myself. And I didn't anticipate having a similar issue. And I promised that I'd come back and I'd be healthy and take care of her. And that seemed to relieve her stress.
Darla accepted it. She was able to understand Claudia's reassurances. And I always ask an animal, what did you just hear your mom or dad or whoever, say? Because I think it's important, just like with people, you may say something to me and I may not have heard it the way you said it. I may have dubbed something in, I may have changed something a little bit. So I think it's really important in my work to check in with the animal and say, okay, well, what did you hear her say, or what did you hear me say that she said? And in this case, Darla got it, and she was fine with it. She accepted it.
Lance says it's not always that easy. Sometimes she has to dig a little deeper.
If an animal feels like they know better, or if I feel like they're, some level of angst or some other emotional response isn't releasing, then I will go in there using the emotional clearing tools that I use to see what got re-stimulated for them. Because obviously, that's a good example here, which is, Claudia's about to go away. I think in that case, she was going, to Morocco, and her dog gets re-stimulated over an earlier incident having to do with the co-owner. So sometimes you have to handle something that happened prior to that somehow got re-stimulated in the present time.
Claudia says Darla's actions show just how empathetic she was. She was trying to maybe stop you from going.
Yes, exactly. She was afraid if I left her side that I would go on the trip and I'd be harmed and I wouldn't be the same. And maybe I wouldn't come back, or I wouldn't come back in the same condition, or I'd be hurting. And so that's why she was being so protective.
Claudia says later in life, when Darla had been diagnosed with aggressive mouth cancer, Darla showed her empathy and concern for her owner again. Darla's vet recommended she be put down because she was in pain. Claudia didn't want Darla to suffer and decided an at-home euthanasia would be less traumatic for Darla.
The morning of the event, I was upstairs, and Darla managed to come upstairs. I had some friends upstairs. She managed to come upstairs almost to say goodbye to everyone, and put her head on my lap in a way she had never done before, to say, I'm going to say goodbye now and everything's okay and I've had a good life. And don't be sad.
Oh my goodness.
And it was just very, I get emotional thinking about it because it was just said was her uh, behavior was such empathy, for both her and the situation and for me. And then we all went downstairs and proceeded to say our goodbyes.
What a special dog that she wanted to make sure that you were okay.
I know. She was always she was the healer. She really was like the shaman of the canine breed. That's the only way to put it. Really just was a special spirit. And, I was very happy that she enjoyed her life with me. And now she, went over the rainbow.
Yeah. I don't think everybody gets to have those kind of special moments at the end, though, and to know that your dog really appreciated her life with you.
I know. It was just really, it was, and of course, I had friends there who actually witnessed this, her doing this, and it was just amazing. It was just a very human, if you can attribute a human characteristic to a dog, it was like that. It was like being hugged.
Animals are trying to communicate with their owners all the time, and certainly when an animal is transitioning, it makes sense to me what happened.
That's pet psychic Ellen Lance again.
And Darla was an amazing girl. I just loved this girl because she was wise. Some animals are kind of superficial and they're wonderful, but they don't necessarily have a lot of depth. She had a lot of depth. So sometimes she would say things that I was just, I definitely couldn't have said it better myself. And I probably never would have said some of the things that she did say. She was amazing.
After Darla passed, Claudia says she thought she'd never have another dog. But fate had different plans. Within a week of Darla's passing, a friend needed a home for her deaf Maltese, and Claudia took Dorchester in. Claudia says Dorchester is a far different dog, one that had some things to say to Lance about her new owner.
And a totally different personality, but just a whippersnapper.
And what has Dorchester talked to Ellen about?
Well, again, recently it was really, it was just a wellness check, and she's very happy. She did complain that I was stubborn. I thought, well, that's the pot calling the kettle black.
No matter what they say, Claudia says she better understands her animals after working with an animal communicator.
I feel, it's not a crutch. For me, it's not like, having a fortune told or something like that. It's not like that. I feel that it's helped clarify some situations, and I take it at face value.
I think that's kind of my thought process about the whole thing too. So I really appreciate you talking to me and just sharing your experience.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks so much for listening to Rover Says. If you like the show, please rate it and share so other people who want to know how animals really think can find us. And we'd like to hear from you. Tell us what your animals are telling you or what they've told pet psychics. You can reach out through our website at roversays.com. We drop new episodes every other Wednesday.